77. You are here, I'm the library of Alistair Crowley, technical libers of the Malaya, Rosa, so figura la vie, Teresa Live, Rosa, so figura la vie, Cyber, Melada, Rosa, so figura la vie, Concordance, Alistair Crowley, Liber, Rosa, so figura la vie, Alistair Crowley, Liberals, a figura la via. Liberals, a figura la via. Liberals. The Lord is strong. This is our Lord and joy. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Thou hast no right but to do thy will, do that, and no other shall say nay. Every man and every woman is a star. There is no God but man. One man has the right to live by his own law. To live in the way that he wills to do, to work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. To man has the right to eat what he will, to drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. To man has the right to think what he will, to speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw, paint, carve, etch, and mold, build as he will, to dress as he will. For man has the right to love as he will. Take your fill and will of love as he will, and where and with whom he will. All I 51, a man has the right to kill those who import these rights, and the slave shall serve. Love is the law, love on the will. All I theft is 7. You are here. On the library of Alistair Crowley, technical livers of the Liberals, so figura la vie. Trace Liberals, so figura la vie. Cyber, Medalla, Alistair Crowley. Liberals, so figura la vie. Concordance. Alistair Crowley, Liberals, so figura la vie. Alistair Crowley, Liberals, so figura la vie. Liberals, so figura la vie. Liberals, the Lord is strong. This is our love and the joy of the world. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. All I 40. Thou hast no right but to do thy will, do that, and no other shall say nay. Every man, every woman is a star. All I 3. There is no God but man. One man has the right to live by his own law, to live in the way that he wills to do, to work as he will, to play as he will, to rest as he will, to die when and how he will. To man has a right to eat what he will, to drink what he will, to dwell where he will, to move as he will on the face of the earth. Man has a right to think what he will, to speak what he will, to write what he will, to draw, paint, carve, etch, mold, build as he will, to dress as he will. For man has a right to love as he will. Take your fill and will of love as he will, and where Five man has the right to kill, but to avoid these rights, slave shall serve. Five man has the right to kill, but to avoid these rights, the slave shall serve. Five man has the right to kill, but to avoid these rights. Love is the law, love under will. All life is one. You are here on the liberty of Alistair Crowley. Technical labors of the lemma liberal, some figure lovey. Trace liberal, some figure lovey. Sidebar. Metal at the Alistair Crowley. Liberal, some figure lovey. Concordance. Alistair Crowley. Liberal, some figure lovey. Or don't really understand, just like in the natural realm, as above, so below. But see, the thing is, right? There's certain things that just I feel shouldn't be touched, right? By all means, I feel like I'm an indigo child. Indigo child is someone that believes that they have powers beyond blah blah blah, right? But there are some things that just should not be touched. That's just what I believe. All that futuristic speaking and stuff like that. Y'all ever seen that song Raven, right? Y'all know what happens every time that Raven saw a vision? Into something that you already have a bone to pick with, and you're trying to do the religion thing. I understand what you're trying to do, but I don't mind it too much because it is kind of relevant. But like, what you just said is another way of saying what I just said. I just named it as a criteria of correctness. So you tried to describe it a little bit loosely as like it involves warrants and it involves, I don't know, some kind of like mechanism whereby people, I don't know, check that. They accept the warrants or they check them? Yeah, okay, cool. But usually I like to use the term because they recognize. It's because they recognize some criteria, though, right? There's no way to do this without having some kind of criteria in mind, right? So, like, you have to have a criteria of correctness in order to, like, assail or deny the identity claim. I think the criteria are pretty difficult to get your hands on. Seems to me that not really, because otherwise, otherwise we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between, like, I don't know, a baker and a non-baker because the criteria would be fuzzy. Like, but that, we don't have a problem with that, like, at all. Right? Like whenever we're accepting somebody's identity based on just they say it, name it, and claim it, right? I mean, that's the weakest kind of identity. But then there's kind of perform it. That's not always like you say, the baker, they perform their identity. The violinist performs their identity. Well, only insofar as the performance of the relevant action is a part of the criteria of correctness. Like, it's hard to imagine a baker who never bakes anything. But is there really, what is there, a body with an elected leader who decides what the criteria of correctness is? It seems to me that criteria for legal purposes, yeah, for like official things like being like a doctor, yeah, we have a bunch of like legally sanctioned apparatus that it becomes a part of the criteria of correctness. So, you know, like I wouldn't be able to call myself like an official teacher in California unless I had certain credentials that enable me to say that, and like that has to be recognized by the state. If it's not recognized by the state, I am effectively not a teacher. And not only that, I can't get hired anywhere unless it's under very unusual circumstances. Yeah, but if you were a religious person, if you have a school still funded by the state under a voucher program, well, you could be a teacher there, for example. You'd have to do some but then the absolutely asinine bullshit cosmology, and suddenly you're a teacher again. So I don't know. That's not quite how it works. But yeah, I get you. Again, you're doing the thing. You're leaning hard into I hate religion. Like I get it, but like usually the criteria of correctness would be different because then the criteria would be defined by the
uncomfortable even naming because you recognize how much control they have. Does that would that be concerning to you?
Right. So if you meet their criteria,
I understand. You understand.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't just allow. The Catholic Church doesn't allow anybody to just go up and let me just they're using a lot of the same mechanisms, right? Which are, I don't want to name drop terms that people aren't ready to hear, but we do have terms in philosophy for these, and one of them that you could use is called status functions. Like even religious entities use status functions, and this is actually very common, no matter whether you have a religious or theocratic state or a secular state. Like all of those mechanisms are the same, right? So
fancy hats, I think, is what you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about status functions.
Fancy hats.
No, status functions.
That's just a fancy word for fancy hats.
No, it doesn't mean fancy hats. It means something completely different. But if you want to, like, I don't know, like oversimplify it, you can do that. But like, there's just these mechanisms. If you don't understand the nuances, you're not gonna understand the distinctions I'm trying to make between them.
We should keep it really simple because people get really confused very easy.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but it's more like it's not that difficult.
I was being serious, actually, unfortunately.
Okay, I can't tell sometimes. But like, yeah, I'd rather not have this devolve into this thing you do where you're like, religion sucks for all these reasons. Like I get that you think that it's not really that relevant.
So we can get off religions for a minute. Can I just leave you with a thought on this topic from Hans Mueller? I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he wrote a book in which he talks about propheticity, authenticity, and sincerity. And it deals with identity as dispensational, meaning there was a time when our identities were authentic. There was then a time when our identities were sincere. In other words, if we really believed ourselves to be that thing, we were that thing.
I appreciate that he posted that in the chat. I had already saved it to listen to it later.
Yeah, he's kind of fun, and I like his frame. And now we've transitioned out of that into a playground world where identities are just like hats. I mean, you have a whole closet full of them. You wear one to school, you wear one to work. You've got one for the internet, one for your kid friends, one for your girlfriends. Whatever you need, you got a new profile, just like we got a new dress. And everybody has tons of profiles, and we're moving through them in a fluid way. So you don't use anything in particular except contextually in that moment. Like here, you're a philosopher, and I don't know, I'm the guy who always upsets your room. But at work, you are a teacher of different things, and I'm an engineer. We just have a different role in those ways, right? So we just wear lots of hats from other things. But not everybody is moving through the dispensation at the same rate. Some people.
That's just like a metaphor for we have different statuses, different contexts. Right? So like that's what status functions is about.
Yeah, but I even messaged you. I told you to sleep and live your status as the elder tribes member of your clan. There's no time when you take that off or put something else on. It is just your authentic identity, right? There was a time when we had very persistent identities. And we don't have
but that doesn't seem to make sense because we still have examples of identities that we don't like shed in any real way. Like I'm a human being no matter what I do. Like if you want to count that. Okay, so like to say that there's no such thing as persistent identity just seems false. Like what do you mean?
Well, I'm trying to understand this well. Like the elder tribesman was someone's son, and they may be someone's father. They're going to fulfill those roles regardless of whether or not they're the elder tribesman. I'm not quite following.
I agree with that. Check out Hans-Gerd Mueller. It's his argument. It's kind of interesting. I recommend it.
I mean, just really you want to parlay the discussion into that. Which is what I anticipated.
It's a helpful
Fiber. Genius site. That site's making bank.
This is not a room on generic concept of identity. It implicates identity in a very specific context and a very specific issue.
Yeah.
And it's gender identity specifically and the criteria of correctness. What the dispute involving what the criteria of correctness for correct attributions of the gender category to people might even be. That's what the topic of the room is mostly. And
Wouldn't you agree though that people are only
back and forth with Dr. Nisha Murda. Go ahead.
Wouldn't you agree that people are only struggling on this issue because they are generally struggling with the management of identity in a world of identity politics?
No, I don't think that's the issue. I think the dispute with the criteria of correctness is the core of the issue.
One last thought. I think the Democrats do make a strategic mistake when they center these identities in this kind of unmanageable way, and they say they're trying to protect people, when the way in which they politicize these issues has exactly the opposite effect. Every single crime after crime. I think if they really cared about people, they wouldn't use them as political pawns.
Well, I think the impacts are actually more complicated. Like, a lot of times, the Democrats have a desired impact, and that desired impact actually happens the way they want it to. And that desired impact is they want to signal to certain people who interpret what they're doing a certain way, that they basically have the back of a vulnerable population of people. And that among a subset of the electorate, it actually does land exactly that way for them. The problem is, if the majority of the electorate doesn't feel that way, then they might get outvoted, like what happened, I think, in the 2024 election, and what might happen in some elections in the future if the Democrats don't change their strategy. I think you're partially right. I just think you kind of didn't explain very well why you're right. I don't know. Nah. Identity politics is fascinating to me because there is a way to do it where it's valid. The left is silly about it. For reasons that I have to grasp. And they're not always silly about it, to be fair, but they're silly about it often enough where they're eroding public trust in position of politics is supposed to be got.
I'll at least give Gavin the credit that again, we talked about this earlier before a lot of people on stage, but at least Gavin seems to be taking a somewhat pragmatic approach to the entire thing. So, and again, I hate giving Gavin some credit, but he is trying really, really hard to distance himself from this particular issue. He knows this is not a winning issue.
I'm a little confused. Can men get pregnant?
Beliefs, or it's because
No, of course not.
yeah, like I'm not sure.
But that's where the political winds are blowing. So at least he's aware of that. You know what I mean? Like there's a huge subset of the Democratic Party.
Wait, does Gavin think that men can get pregnant? Point of order. Does Gavin think that men can get pregnant?
No trolling tonight.
Yeah, no trouble. I'm gonna log off here in a second, anyways. I want to go to bed, but it's and like I don't think it has anything to do with what he actually believes. I don't know what he actually believes, to be honest. I think that I don't know. I don't know whether or not Gavin Newsom is old enough, or he is of the belief that like this was not the position of the Democratic Party until the last 10 years.
I agree with that.
Right. So like I don't know what.
But it's been the view of progressives for a while.
Sure. But
so, I mean, the progressives have kind of infiltrated the party, and so
Right, but if you're asking like, what does Gavin Newsom actually believe? I don't know.
I don't know what he actually believes on anything. To be honest with you, I think he's kind of a chameleon. That's one reason I don't like him. But I mean, he's got like a kind of snake oil salesman vibe. Like he's kind of got charisma that he can leverage in a way that people who aren't hip to his games will fall for inevitably. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if he'll win the presidency, but he's clearly ambitious in trying to win that shit, and he's positioning himself as the less version of Donald Trump, which is interesting to me. In many ways, be better than Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump is like not a gifted orator or rhetorical person, and he says dumb shit regularly.
It's not the same thing. Getting caught in the crossfire is like getting hit by accident. You didn't choose no side or nothing like that. Where you might have been a good person, you just got caught in the crossfire. No, we're just in the direction of his target. That he's committed to destroying sin. If we hold on to it,
I think that there is
we just go right with it. Which brings up that point. Religion.
Or not. I think that it's always like,
I think God holds the most, pardon the pun, God awful grudge there is. It's known as hell. God created hell. Now, true, if you're Christian, you can repent all your sins, you will go to heaven, no problem. If you're Catholic, maybe not. But God will hold an eternal revenge and eternal consequences. And I'm sorry, God holds the greatest judge of anybody.
Well, for those who think that God does not have a hate on those who, I'm going to say, intentionally sin, and I have to be very precise on that. When I say intentionally, I'm not talking about those who came into the knowledge of knowing better.
Aries.
Oh my God, I'm too slow.
What organ filters blood in the human body?
Liver.
I think it's good.
Kidneys.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
What is the name of the closest star to the Earth besides the Sun?
Alpha Centauri.
Does this say Proxima Centauri?
Yeah, close enough.
Proximus.
Is that obvious?
Proximus.
You better holler your mouth now.
What is the chemical symbol for silver?
AG.
Yeah. I'm so bad at periodic tables and chemical symbol shit.
I'm gonna study up on that. It's so
Oh
important.
my God, there's a chemistry major. That's why
Apparently, there is multiple countries, but what is the main country that is both in Europe and in Asia?
Russia.